Pass for Vicky's the next witness.
Thank you, Ms. Cammy Back.
Good morning. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear to affirm the testimony about to give us the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
And you can be seated, and then would you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name?
Cammy Back,
And spell your first and last name, please.
CAMMY BACK.
Go ahead, prosecutor.
Thank you. Ms. Back, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice nice and loud for me, okay?
Okay.
Now, is it true, Miss, that you work at a retail store that sells firearms?
Yes.
And that's in Oxford, Michigan?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you worked there?
4 years.
What's your current title?
Office manager?
Have you always been the office manager?
No.
As office manager, do you assist with gun sales?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what did you do before you became the office manager?
I was a counter.
I'm sorry?
I worked the counter.
Okay, the counter?
Yes.
Okay, so you would deal with customers?
Yes.
And you're familiar with the procedure when someone purchases a firearm?
Yes.
Now, there is a specific process when somebody purchases a handgun, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that, please?
So when you come in to purchase a firearm, whether it's a handgun or a long gun, we have to have your ID. You have to fill out a 4473.
What's that?
It's a federal firearms form for the
Okay.
customers. Once that is done, myself or whoever will run a NICS check on the computer.
Okay, can you tell us what that is?
That is where you send it over to, I just lost my train of thought. To the FBI, and then they take it from there.
Okay, do you know what happens with that? When you
I
send
do
it to
not.
the FBI? All right.
Nope.
So you take this information in and the customer fills out certain forms and you send that off?
Yes.
Okay, and how long does that process usually take?
Sometimes it could take seconds, sometimes it could take up to 30 minutes
Okay.
or longer.
Is someone able to walk in and buy a firearm, or to buy a firearm and walk out with that gun purchase that day?
As long as they pass the background check.
As long as everything checks out?
Yes.
Now, what happens if things don't check out, or if there's some kind of delay? Does that ever happen?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
So if a customer is delayed, we are giving them a Brady date, which is 5 days. Within those 5 days, the NICS check could come back as a proceed, or it could come back as a denied. After 5 days, if there's no response, then we are allowed to hand the firearm over to the customer.
Okay. Do you know the circumstances in the background why somebody might be approved or denied?
I do not.
Okay. Now, when the store you work at sells a firearm, do you also provide a ATF pamphlet on handgun safety?
Yes.
Is that with every handgun purchase?
With every handgun, yes.
Okay. And tell me about that pamphlet, please. What kind of information is contained in there?
It just states the do's and the don'ts, as far as, when you buy a firearm, child safety, how to lock it, just to pretty much keep your firearm safe and out of the hands of, anyone that doesn't need to have it.
Okay. And that is provided by the ATF?
Yes,
Okay. That's the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms?
yes,
Right. Does your store also provide a trigger lock safe?
yes,
Okay. And is that one of these standard forms that has to come with the firearms purchase?
yes.
And tell me what that is.
So it just, the trigger lock form, we take and we make sure we check the box, that it has the lock in the box, and that it has a box that can be locked,
Okay. Now we say the lock in the box. What do you mean by that?
the trigger lock.
Okay. So when your store sells a firearm, you also provide a lock with it.
Yes,
Okay. And that's not an actual gun safe, correct? That's a smaller locking device.
yes,
All right. And that happens with every handgun sale from your store?
yes.
I'd like to direct your attention to November the 26th of 2021. Do you remember that day?
I did.
Okay. And were you working?
Yes, I was.
Did you, well, first of all, I should ask you, as office manager and someone's been employed at the store for 4 years, every time a firearm is sold, is there a receipt kept?
Yes,
Okay. On November the 26th, 2021, did you sell a handgun to James Crumbley?
I did.
Okay. And was he there with somebody else during that purchase?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Was it an adult or was it a teenager?
Teenager.
Okay. Did you come to learn who that person was?
Later, yes.
Okay. And you came to learn that it was the defendant's 15-year-old son?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you didn't know that at the time?
No, I did not.
Okay. Now, during the purchase between yourself and James Crumbley, did his son do anything?
Never.
Okay, so he was there, present, but he didn't interact with you.
No.
I'd like to direct your attention also to June the 15th, 2021. Did James Crumbley make another purchase of a firearm that day?
That I cannot say.
Okay. If I showed you receipts, would that refresh your memory, you think?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is go through some exhibits with you. They'll be on the screen in front of you. These are all stipulated too. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. This is exhibit 24. This is, do you recognize this as a receipt from the store you work at?
Yes.
Okay. This is June the 15th, 2021. Do you see the date?
Yes.
All right. And the purchaser is James Robert Crumbley.
Yes.
And it has his address. And it has the item purchase, and that's a Cobra Classic for $180 total.
Yes.
And that's actually a 22 Derringer pistol, is that correct?
Yes.
24 has been admitted, I believe, with stipulation.
I believe that Ms. Smith was willing to stipulate to 24 through 30, is that accurate?
That's correct.
24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30 are admitted, so.
Thank you, Judge. This is exhibit 25 right here. It says pistol sales record. Can you tell us about that, please?
So each time that a pistol is sold, we have to provide the customer with a pistol record. They are given those and they are instructed to have those dropped within 10 days of the purchase.
Okay. Now, this has a description of the pistol, is that right?
Yes.
So it says, this is a Cobra Classic, we just saw the receipt for. Do you see that on there?
Yes.
Okay, and it says pistol shot in the number 2. What does that mean?
It's a 2-shot.
Okay, so it's a small handgun,
Yes.
and barrel length 2.25. Is that in inches?
Yes.
Okay. It says purchase transfer date is June the 16th of 2021, whereas the receipt was June 15th, 2021. Can you tell us what happened there?
So I believe that Mr. Crumbley may have gotten a delay on June 15th, and he had a proceed either later in the day on June 15th, or he may have gotten a proceed early morning on June 16th.
Okay, and that's because there's some kind of delay in the background information?
Yes.
Ms. Back, is it true that some handguns sold by the store actually come with their own cable locks, not just from the retailer themselves?
Yes.
Okay, so whereas on November the 26th, you provided a lock, not every handgun has to be provided a lock by your store.
Yes,
because
it does.
Because the manufacturer gives a lock themselves.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't think that was clear, so I just want to back up for a second.
So some guns that come in from the manufacturer do not provide locks. We
Okay.
have to provide those.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. No,
Okay.
that's my fault, not yours. The 6 Hour, for example, they do not provide their own locks, is that right?
Some they do, some they do not.
Okay, and if they don't, then you would fill in that gap.
Yes.
All right. Now, this is exhibit 26. This is a receipt, James Robert Crumbley, June the 16th. And this is the Kel-Tec P17 22 LR, total price $349. Do you see that?
Yes.
This is exhibit 26. And again, this is June the 16th. That's the day that he would have received the Derringer. Would that be
Yes.
right? Okay. And here's exhibit 27, which is the actual pistol sales record And again, purchase transfer date June 17th of 21. So there was a delay in this purchase as well?
Yes,
Okay. And this description is, it's a 16 shot, barrel length is 3.8 inches.
yes,
So it's bigger than the Derringer.
yes.
Okay. Now moving on to Exhibit 28. This is from November the 26th of 21, the day we've already spoke of. So this is a receipt, total of $519.35. And again, James Robert Crumbley. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And this is the day you recall seeing somebody with him,
yes,
his son. Okay. Do you recall if his son was with him in June, or did you not complete that purchase?
I did not complete that purchase.
Okay, that's fair. But as office manager, you can tell us that those records are from your store.
Yes,
Here's Exhibit 29. This is the pistol sales record. And this is from the Sig Sauer on November 26th, is that right?
yes,
Okay, so this is a 15 shot and it's 3.75 inch barrel.
yes,
Is that right? Okay. And he walked out with that gun on November the 26th, 2021? Because that's the date that we have right there?
yes.
Okay. Now, hypothetically speaking, if there was a 15-year-old who walked into your store and tried to buy a handgun, would you let him?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that would be illegal, right?
Yes,
Okay. Here's Exhibit 30. This is a portion of the firearms transaction record. I think you referred to it as a 4473. Do you recognize this?
yes,
Okay. And was this provided, this was filled out by James Crumbley?
yes.
Okay. And what's the purpose of this form here?
That is to keep a record for ATF for all firearms that are sold.
So there's certain boxes are checked here, and the condition of the gun is notified. In this case, it was used.
Yes,
Okay. And the purchaser has to assert certain things before he can walk out with that gun. Is that right?
yes,
And one of those boxes are you the actual transferee or you are the actual buyer of the gun and it's not for somebody else?
right,
Because it is not legal for someone to buy a gun for somebody else through your store, correct?
no, it is.
Well, that person has to come in and fill out this paperwork, that is right?
Yes,
Right. So it would not be legal for a adult, for example, to check this box that the gun is for himself and then transfer it to a child.
yes.
Can you tell us the difference between a cable lock and a trigger lock?
So a cable lock, you have to take the slide off of the pistol and run the cable through the barrel and bring it out and to lock. Trigger lock goes directly on the trigger.
Okay. And do you recall it was provided to James Crumbley in June on November the 26th?
I believe it was a cable lock.
A cable lock. Okay, so it looks like a rope.
Yes,
And then at the end of the rope, there is a locking mechanism.
yes,
And that's fastened by a key. Would that be right?
correct, yes.
Are there some firearms that can't be secured with the cable lock versus trigger lock, or is it unique to certain guns that you need one versus the other?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Does your store always provide either a cable lock or trigger lock, or does it depend?
We provide both,
Both. Okay.
yes,
But on this particular occasion, on November of 2021, it was a cable lock.
it was a cable lock, yes.
I have nothing further. Oh, hang on one second. Sorry. Thank you, Judge. Nothing further.
Cross?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to go back through the exhibits. Would it be easiest if I had the prosecution go back through them if I ask, or is it easier if I just transfer it to my laptop? Okay, I can do this. Okay. Can you put up exhibit number 24, please? Just so that the jury can see it. And if you want, I can put it on my computer, I have them.
But we have another flash drive, don't we, that we provided to the
Yeah.
I have them on my computer. Do you want me to take the reins and use my laptop?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, we just need to switch this over then.
Okay.
Hit that button, and then I've got to plug in my,
Here's the plug out.
all right, and I'm just gonna pull up the exhibits on my laptop while Mr. Godwin plugs it in. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Smith and I represent Mrs. Crumbley. I'm gonna ask a couple of questions, and if I ask anything confusing, can you please just slow me down and let me know?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. It's not my job to confuse you. I want to make sure you understand each question I ask.
Okay.
The first exhibit the prosecution showed, Exhibit 24, which was admitted, is a receipt for a Derringer gun. And I just want to be clear that Derringer gun was purchased by James Crumbley, correct?
I cannot say.
If you look at the receipt,
By the receipt, yes.
okay, so by the receipt, it indicates James Crumbley purchased the weapon.
Mhm.
And
Is that
it's,
yes? You have to say
Yes.
or no. Okay.
and it's fair to say that Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on that receipt.
No.
Okay. We talked about Exhibit 25, the pistol sales record. And this was the pistol that was bought back in June of 2021. On this receipt, or I'm sorry, on this pistol sales record, James Crumbley is the person who purchased this pistol. Is that correct?
Yes.
Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on this pistol sales receipt, correct? I'm sorry?
No.
Thank you. All right, Exhibit 26 was admitted. This is a receipt from a Kel-Tec gun that was purchased, correct?
Yes.
And again, on this receipt, it indicates that James Robert Crumbley purchased the gun,
Yes.
and Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on that receipt.
No.
All right, I'm turning to Exhibit 27, which was admitted. This is the pistol sales receipt from the Kel-Tec that we just talked about in the prior receipt. I'm sorry, this is the sales record. The sales record indicates James Crumbley bought this gun,
Yes.
okay? And Jennifer Crumbley's name is not listed as the purchaser, or she's not anywhere on this record, correct?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to number 28, which has been admitted. This is the receipt from the Sig Sauer that was purchased in November of 2021, correct?
Yes.
You have a direct memory of the purchase on this Sig Sauer gun, correct?
Yes.
And on this receipt, this gun was purchased by James Crumbley, correct?
Yes.
The receipt does not have Jennifer Crumbley's name.
No.
And when this gun was purchased, James Crumbley was accompanied by a teenage boy and no one else, correct?
Correct.
And you were testifying that you didn't have any interactions with the teenage boy who was with Mr. Crumbley.
Correct.
And when you saw this teenage boy with Mr. Crumbley, there was nothing about him that stood out to you as unusual or weird or something that would have raised concern about selling the gun to James Crumbley with his son, correct? No. I'm sorry, the court's making a record, so it's really important we talk one at a time. I'm not trying to cut you off in any way. I just need to make sure the record's really clear.
Sure.
So I'm just gonna re-ask, and I'm doing it just to have a clear record. When you saw Ethan Crumbley with Mr. Crumbley buying the gun, there was nothing about him that concerned you about selling the weapon to Mr. Crumbley, correct?
Correct.
And on that date, you vividly remember it was only the two of them at the gun store purchasing that weapon, correct?
Correct.
And again, on Exhibit 29, this is the pistol sales receipt. Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on the pistol sales receipt, correct?
Correct.
And I'm gonna open Exhibit 30, which has been admitted. This is the firearms transaction receipt. This is specific to the November gun that was purchased, the Sig Sauer, correct?
Yes.
And on this form, James Crumbley is the only adult that filled out this form, correct?
Yes.
Jennifer Crumbley's name does not appear anywhere on this form.
No.
And the information provided was all provided by James Crumbley, correct?
Correct.
And you cannot sell a weapon to a 15-year-old who walks into your store if they came in and wanted to buy a gun, correct?
Correct.
And if you don't know the answers to these questions, I can ask someone else, but I'm going to ask you, when a parent buys a gun, a parent has a right to take their child to a shooting range, correct?
Yes.
A parent has a right to take their child hunting, correct?
Yes.
A parent has a right, when they own a gun, to allow their child to use the gun at things like a gun range or hunting or along those lines, correct?
Yes.
You testified that with the Sig Sauer gun, it did not come from the manufacturer with a lock, correct? A cable lock.
That was a used gun.
Okay, so the used gun did not come with a cable lock in the case, correct?
It may have.
If it didn't, you provided a cable lock
Yes.
to that gun.
Yes.
And in order to take a cable lock off a gun, you have to use a key, correct?
Yes.
And the key it's not just any key, it's a key specific to that cable lock, correct?
Yes.
And in Michigan, there is no, as far as you know, and if you don't know, you can tell me and I can ask another witness, there is no requirement that a person has to store a gun in a safe, correct?
Judge, I'm gonna object, that's calling for legal conclusion.
Well, it is. It is calling for legal conclusion, isn't it? I'm assuming you guys could stipulate to that at some point, but.
Either way, it's not appropriate for this.
Or,
case.
yeah.
Okay, we'll
Ask
take
the
care of
police
that
officer,
later.
Yeah.
Okay. When you sell guns to people at your store, you also, you're not required to also sell them a safe for that gun, correct?
Correct.
As a precaution, if it does not come with a cable lock, you make sure that every gun that leaves your store is sent out with a cable lock if one can be put on that gun, correct?
Cable lock or trigger lock?
Or trigger lock?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There is not any time that you recall seeing Mrs. Crumbley at the store looking at guns, considering buying a gun, anything along those lines, correct?
Correct.
And of course, I don't expect your memory's perfect. I'm just asking by recollection, you don't recall that Mrs. Crumbley was in there.
She was not, no.
It's also not illegal for a father to bring children in or a teenager in with them to purchase a weapon, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Crumbley is not the only person who has ever been in the store purchasing a weapon with minors present, correct?
Correct.
And there is nothing that when you come to the door of the store that says minors cannot enter the store or look at what you have in terms of your stock, correct?
Correct.
May I have just a minute?
Sure.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Just very briefly.
Okay.
Ms. Back, I'm just gonna clear a few things up. I'm afraid I wasn't terribly clear on some
Sure.
things. First of all, after the shooting in Oxford High School, agents from the ATF, they came and spoke with you, would that be right?
Yes.
Okay. And ATF, that's the government agency that sort of regulates the finance or the firearms transactions.
Yes.
Okay, at least to your understanding.
Yes.
Okay. And when you, well, first of all, let me ask you this. Do you recall on November the 26th when that Sig Sauer was sold to James Crumbley, if he shopped around at all or if he went right to that gun?
He went right to that gun,
And did he make any statements about that?
that he had his eye on
Your Honor,
for some time.
I would object to the hearsay of the co-defendant who's not present in this trial.
Isn't it?
It's not opposite of the truth of the matter, sir. The judge just offered to show that he went right for that gun.
Well, I guess he asked whether or not he looked around. Right? He didn't look at anything else.
No, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge. And were you able to tell if that transaction for the Sig Sauer on 11/26/21 was for cash or for credit?
It was cash.
Cash, okay. And you did that by comparing the receipts on November the 26th, and there were no credit or check transactions that they made in the amount of $519.35.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Justice Brennan.
Can I ask you, there's also an Exhibit 31 and put this.
Oh, that's going to come through Agent Brandon.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you didn't have to bring this witness back. I'm gonna excuse her. Okay,
Thank you.
okay, you can step down and you're excused.
Thank you.